Hello, ladies, and welcome to Exploring the Ocean. We've been talking a little bit about the ocean, and we're going to continue to talk about the ocean. But how did we gain this information? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today and some of the basics of what we found. So don't forget about the 4 questions that you're trying to answer, which are what reasons people have studied the ocean, how technology advancement has helped us learn about the ocean, what the main sections of the ocean floor are, and what are the different zones and where are they located in the ocean. Well, we're going to try and start our journey kind of in the middle with this ship here. It is the year 1872, and you are going to be part of the voyage of this HMS Challenger. It is a massive 3-masted ship, and it will be your home for the next 3 years. It looks strong and sturdy with its massive sails and football field size and steam-powered engine. You say hello to your shipmates and realize you are all ecstatic in anticipation about the journey before you. Your job is to investigate everything, yes, everything about the sea. Although you're ecstatic, you're a little nervous as well, but you would never tell anyone that. What if you encounter storms? Would this vessel be as sturdy as it looks? Will you find what you're looking for? Will you be able to not see your family and friends all that time? Should you really be doing this? Well, it's too late to turn back now. You board the ship and walk its deck. As you walk along the ship from bow to stern, you notice the intricate thermometers of measuring temperature of the ocean water, as well as the dredges that will be dragged along the ocean floor to scrape up sand, muck, and rock. This you will use to gather information. You know these tools will lead to new discoveries, and you know you have made the right decision. Well, you think. So why did people go on these journeys like this? Well, first and foremost, in the most ancient of times, it was just because the ocean provided them with food. And as we became better adept in that, it started to serve as trade routes so people could trade and gather information or gather more often materials that they wouldn't otherwise have. And as of late, it also is to provide us with scientific discoveries. We are very curious about things and we always want to know more, and we think that the ocean has a lot to provide and help us, so we are looking for those things. So let's talk about the people that looked at the ocean, went into the ocean even before the HMS Challenger. So one of the first people to do this were the Phoenicians, and they lived in the Mediterranean. So if you see here, we have North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia here. Okay, so let's look a little closer. So here was where the star was. It's just in this little area that they found trade routes. But even in this very small area, they were able to trade lots of different materials that nobody else could find. So they developed the first trade routes. Then also you probably know about the Polynesians. So about 2,000 years ago, they started looking for trade routes, and eventually that's why people came to settle along islands such as Hawaii, Tahiti, and New Zealand. As time went on, there was more modern science that developed, and so trading routes became larger, and governments wanted to become rich, and they wanted to be known for their scientific discoveries, so we explored more. This guy Cook was the one that we were talking about that was captain of the HMS Challenger, and they studied many things and came up with many amazing facts about the stars and species. But the biggest thing he did is mapped out much of the Earth's coastlines, which had never been done before. And this was huge, so it helped people know where they were going. So go ahead and pause and see if you can answer the question. So why did we not know a lot about the ocean floor until recently? Well, it's kind of like this picture. You don't see anything on one side, and then you get hurt on the other. We basically couldn't go very deep except for what this poor scuba diver did. But if you look at this other side, it goes so down so deep we can't see what's at the bottom of the picture. It keeps on going. We haven't seen the land yet. It's very much like that. Well, why couldn't we go way back when? Because of three things. It was too dark, too cold, and had way too much pressure. We didn't have the technology that was needed. But it wasn't until the 1900s that we started getting technology tools that could help us. The first one was sonar. And as you can see, sonar was a way that we could send sound pulse waves through the water, and it would go down and hit the ocean floor and come back up, and then since it travels at a constant speed, we could calculate the distance that the floor was away. The second thing in the 1940s was the scuba, or self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And this was a great invention because it allowed us to look and see, touch, feel firsthand up to 100 meters down, which we never had been able to do before. We really only could just stay down as long as we can hold our breath. So in the 1960s, they came up with submersibles. So that's basically like different types of submarines. And then in 1978, satellites were able to take pictures and see things and gather data that we couldn't. And then you had ROVs, which stands for Remote Operating Vehicle. If you think about like a remote control car, kind of like that, but it had a little video so we can kind of see where we were going. And most recently, we have more advanced submersibles like this Deep Flight Aviator. So it travels faster and can maneuver better. And as you can see from the glass that's all around them, they can see a lot better. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can answer how technology advancement has helped us learn about the ocean. Okay, our next question is, what are the main sections of the ocean floor? Well, as you can see on this picture, you have one continent all the way across to another continent. So from where we were talking about before, for instance, you would have North America all the way across to Europe, or South America all the way across to Africa, something like that. Okay. So after the land, you would see this shallow area, which looks kind of deep. It gets up to 130 meters, but compared to here, it's extremely shallow, right? And then this is where a lot of your animals live. After that, you have a continental slope, which is an incline after 130 meters. This one actually makes it look a little bit steeper than it normally would be. It wouldn't quite be so steep, but they couldn't do it because there wasn't, enough area in their picture to show that. So once you get down the continental slip, you get to the abyssal plain, which is this area here. It's just a flat layer that's covered with mud. And then the next thing you would probably come in contact with are these things right here, the mid-ocean ridge. You should remember talking about this when we talked about plate tectonics. Here we have the seafloor spreading, and then remember the magma comes in and adds to that, and you get this little mountain range where the areas are separating and the plates are diverging from each other. The next thing you travel along you might see is the continental shelf. Okay, that's also, remember, because the continents are converging or coming together, and it creates this big, deep trench. The Marianas Trench in the Pacific is the longest, deepest one at 11 kilometers deep. Oop, let me go back. Sorry about that. And then eventually you'll have the opposite happen, so you have a little bit more of the abyssal plain, you have the continental slope, the continental shelf, and then back to the land again. All right, and so the last part is the different zones. So you can notice that this is kind of like, in our picture, you're only seeing about half of it though, but we separate the zones based upon where they are. So as you can see here, you have the high tide mark and the low tide mark. In between there, it's called the intertidal zone because it's in between tides. It might look something like that. Okay, so from there to the end of the continental shelf that we were just talking about, that would be considered the neritic zone. So it starts at the low tide mark and then it goes to the end of the continental shelf. This is where you would see most of our coral reefs here in Hawaii. There's not coral reefs everywhere in the world, but here in Hawaii, you can kind of think of it as that area. Okay, so then that would be from like here to here in this picture. And then the rest of the ocean is considered the open ocean zone. So if you think about all of the abyssal plain, the mid-ocean ridges, all the way back to you get to the other side, it would be the open ocean zone. So that covers a vast majority. Okay, so go ahead and pause. Okay, next in class we're going to do a little lab about the ocean zones to get you a little bit familiar with that and some other interesting things. I hope you have a great rest of your evening and I will see you tomorrow in class.